thank you, panelists and the audience. I'm really privileged to be before you. I'll take a few minutes to put my points before you. So ROI part has been extremely well elucidated. So I'm going to focus at this point of time about what from the initial days of the e-governance to the cloud-based e-governance models, what we have seen from the overall perspective, from HP perspective, and where do we think, where we see things going forward. A thought leading, open thought leading stuff that I'm going to say, and probably I'm sure you would have few things to say, and we will interact. And I think we have the women panelists to support as well. So let me get ahead. So it's a nice a picture that's close to my heart. It's a technology that you are seeing. A kind of small mini rocket. It's not just without any technology that it goes to the clouds. Obviously, we are talking clouds, but you see the enthusiasm in the child. So the child is enjoying. So a cloud as a tool should give enjoyment to us, right? So it should elevate our experience. So that's what's the fundamental basis to the cloud, that you've seen an era of optimization costs. From one way of looking at it is from ROI perspective. One, and also multiple ways to look at it, but it's about optimizing costs. So virtualization itself did its own bit a lot. But what about optimizing the operations, right? So irrespective of what you have done at the infrastructure level in the IT, so there are that operations that you do to give a service out. That's not diminishing. In fact, it probably gets to the other direction, right? So that's about cloud. Cloud should do the automation. Cloud should give take away the mundaneness, take away the repetitiveness, and thereby eliminate the possibility of error, and also give you the speed to the service. So these are the elements that come in when we just think about what's automation. And this is something well known. Today we are in the world of mobile, right? So everything needs to come into the mobile. SMAC, very popular term, social mobile analytics and cloud. And if you see the evolution out there from Web 1.0, Web 1.0 is internet, right? Which is like information available for access, to what we are talking at this point of time as SMAC, which is Web 2.0, wherein it's all about collaboration, right? And where we are headed to? We are headed to Web 3.0. Web 3.0 is all about my web. It's about my web, meaning your web, in the sense that you as an identity is there and needs services. Everyone around comes around to deliver you the services, right? So that's my web concept. So if you see in a perspective of what the digital e-governance to the citizen, from point of view of the citizen, if you would see, it's all about my web concept. So how different services from various departments come together to deliver services to a person who establishes his identity and requests for services, how things string around and come in. So that's the basis. So for that, the first element, the elemental thing that comes into play is how things can work together. So that's what's going to be the focus of my small presentation, how things can work together, why it needs to work together, what is required for it to make to work together. Right? So this is something well known, that as we aspire for Web 3.0, we are also seeing the other side of it, the operation side of it. The operations, to make that happen, either from the infra perspective or from the app perspective, is not something minuscule. It explodes. The complexity explodes. The number of tools that is required explodes. Even there are some statistics. I'm not going to tell what the statistics are about, but the amount of tools that you will require to manage such an interactive my web environment is not trivial at all, right? So given that scenario, cloud had the promise. Cloud came up with a promise saying that I'll show the way to optimize the operations. I'll show the way to deliver service-oriented architecture in a self-service model. So it's all about service-centric IT delivering services to you. Right. So and if you see the traditional journey ramp up of the cloud, There are various organizations that have gone in, government, non-government, commercial. All of them have gone through multiple various routes and multiple various deployment models, right? But what's important out there is that finally in the MyWeb, in Web 3.0, in that concept, if you see all of them, you need to have a view of all of them together. You need to have apps delivered to you that work across the deployment models. Across board, it needs to all put together its services and deliver it to you. So that's what's the important thing about what's called as converged cloud architectural concept, right? So if we know about private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, right? So familiar terms, community cloud, familiar term. So if we see the digital governance and the cloud-based digital governance is a concept of a massive community cloud. So the same thing comes in. So some of the aspects that is brought in out here, that such a community-based cloud deployment for large-scale digital governance would obviously have multiple deployment models inside it. Private, public, hybrid. Obviously, some of the very core essential services, probably confidential services, probably mission-critical services would be there in a secure data center, and you would have probably lots of surrounding applications, the contextual applications, which can be there outside. So we had a chance to work through NASSCOM from the industry perspective to with DIT when Meghraj was being formed. Dr. Renu Madam spearheaded that, and we had some inputs through NASSCOM. So I'm very glad to hear at different points of time the aspect that in the whole concept of Meghraj, there are cloud service providers who are also part of the scene, right? So that really gives a good fabric for the community cloud. So if you go further beyond and see how the digital governance evolved from a very admin-centric to a customer-centric, which is citizen-centric, as it evolved through the nascent stage to the developed and mature to innovate stage. The innovate stage is what it's really about: cloud and cloud-based MyWeb environment, my services environment, right? Towards that, in that goal, in that path, we from HP have also grown. It's a journey. We also learn, we also implement at different points of time, different things, and go forward. And one of the very early steps in 2005, 2006, much before cloud was so well known in the industry, we did some project for government of Karnataka e-procurement, where even today we manage the e-procurement systems by ourselves. And for example, the model, the innovative thing about this is about the pay-per-use model. We get paid per tender that is floated and tender that gets fulfilled. So the pay-per-use model, which is one of the essential characteristics in the cloud-based service-centric delivery, has been something that practiced by different groups, and we have done some very good implementation. We've got very good accolades around that. We're happy about that, and we learned further, and we went ahead as the digital governance came up. We put up a framework, and we wanted to work with various governments across the globe, and we have some very good success stories as well there. For example, some of the specific government, there are lots, about some close to 100 such case studies available. I'm not going to say about all of them, but to just say about one is such example is Australian government, where we put it on what you call as VPC, Virtual Public Cloud. Digital governance application on a virtual private cloud. So now the next example is something that we really learned a lot. This is in the recent years, in the last 3-4 years, where the Singapore government runs with we being the technology provider for the Singapore government. So the Singapore government's Infocom Development Authority, IDA, and Singtel, which is the national telecom carrier, HP, and we all together formed a collaborative platform from which we are able to serve to Singapore government various e-governance facilities, right? So now with steady one-by-one learning across the adoption models, deployment models, and we have gone through this journey, we have reached a stage today, which May 7th of this year, 2014, we announced a big strategy around what we call as Helion, right? It's brand name. So Helion, by this brand, by this by this effort, what we are doing is we are investing about $1 billion behind it, all about open source based interoperable cloud. So this is we believe a very strong contribution that HP is making to give a framework, a platform for an interoperable cloud, which is very essential. For example, if you see going forward, for example, Meghraj. So I would say I've read this once or twice, and I've found that I have not read a more elegant, more thoughtful, more clean document than this. So very elucidate document, and here you see some, I think, Dr. Renu Viraj's contribution. Out here, if you see here that SDCs, state data centers, work with the Meghraj. So what it says, the SDCs deploy clouds on their methodology, and they go over deploying it, and they need to work with Meghraj. They need to collaborate at the infra level. They need to work at the app level, PaaS level. So at the IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, at all levels, they need to work together. What it takes for it to work together is the important thing. There should be standards. So this is what we believe from the HP Helion investment perspective, where we contribute. We contribute, in terms of developing this OpenStack as a technology, open source technology to the world. We are the leading contributors to the OpenStack. You can see the charts that show the adoption of the OpenStack in the graphs that you can see. So we have contributed to the growth, and we continue to contribute key. And we have in fact formed it as a part of the key strategy for our product portfolio. So going forward, our product portfolio strategy is going to be hinged around OpenStack, open standards. Right. So, and if you see from the other perspective, one of the key elements about the Meghraj as well, for example, if you were to talk in that context, is about developing the app store. There are various governmental and probably non-governmental frameworks who develop applications. If you see from that perspective, we need to have a framework in which the applications need to be developed on an interoperable way again, and that's again a big standard that's coming up, which we are extremely focused on, which is called Tosca, which is also we find in the SDCs and the Meghraj a heavy emphasis has been put in, which is essentially going to say that how applications can be deployed seamlessly across the deployment models, across the platforms, without reinventing the wheel. How quickly the applications deployment is transportable. So that's the key about it. So this is what I wanted to say. There is an aspect about ROI. There is another aspect about automation, right up to the automation levels, where we need to find out the ways and means to make the application work in a multi-tenant way or in the most performant way. These two slides say about that. If we have to work around that, we need to adopt certain standards so that you will see the uniform service level availabilities across the cloud. When you traverse the from the Meghraj to the SDCs, you get service delivered from anywhere, any point in the cloud. You need to experience uniform service levels. We need to have some standards around that. So with that, I would conclude my small. Thank you very much.